You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
All right, welcome back into another episode of the Royals Farm Report podcast. My name is Alex Duvall, as always tonight, joined by Josh Keiser. Josh, the Royals did not do better this week than last week when we went off the rails a little bit. So how are we doing?
Well, I mean, it kind of just confirms that no matter what we say, it's not going to have any kind of outcome or any kind of effect on what happens with the big league club or really anything. It's just us shouting it into the ether and nothing changing from it. So it's just another week in that regard.
I really thought we could anger scream our way into a Vinny Pasquantino promotion. No such luck. So tonight we brought on Ben Badler of Baseball America. Ben, is there any way that you can will a Vinny Pasquantino promotion here on the podcast?
I don't think my powers extend that far, but he's got to be coming up soon, right? I mean, he's just demolishing AAA. I'm not sure how much more he has to prove there.
I was looking through Fangraphs the other day, and I went back and I looked since 2012. And actually, I went back to as far as I could go and kind of limited their scale to the number of 24-year-olds, so to make it age appropriate, to hit 15 home runs in their first 50 AAA games without striking out more than 30 times. And Vinny was the only one. He literally, I know we do strikeout to walk ratio, and his is around 1-to-1. His home run to strikeout ratio is 0.5. So I think that's pretty good. So yeah, I don't know what the Royals deal is, but we wanted to ask you about him really quick. Is this legit? Is what we're seeing from Vinny legitimate top 100? I know Baseball America launched Vinny up into number 61 on their updated top 100 rankings. Is this legitimate, or is there reason for caution behind the Royals having not promoted him yet?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in Vinny Pasquantino. Like you said, he's got power, strike zone discipline, the swing works. Like you said, walks almost equal to strikeouts, and I think he has just about as many extra base hits too as strikeouts, which is like a pretty good shorthand for a guy who's making a lot of contact and doing a lot of damage. I think like Mike Moustakas did that when he was in the minor leagues. It's pretty unusual to find a player who has numbers like that when a player has more extra base hits and strikeouts. So there's no real. I mean, other than, not bringing too much to the table defensively, but there's no glaring hole I can see, certainly at least not in his offensive game. I think he has all the hallmarks that you find too in a player who gets underrated, right? Like he played college baseball at Old Dominion. It's not a big program. He goes in the 11th round in 2019. Obviously there's no 2020 season. So, that, not a lot to go off for that. And then, all right, so because of that pandemic year, he gets to, his first real season. He's already 23 in high A, so he's a little bit older for the level, but obviously you can understand why. But by the time he got to Double A last year, he just kept raking. So I was a believer at that point, and I mean, I didn't think he'd go off quite the way he is right now, but yeah, I mean, the swing works. There's power in there. He controls the strike zone pretty well. I think he's got a chance to be an impact middle of the lineup type guy, and I'd really like to see him up this year too, just like you guys.
Do you see that middle of the order kind of coming, overall, like that's the peak, that's the prime time Vinny Pasquantino that we can expect, or is that more of like he could come up tomorrow and potentially be that guy?
So I think he certainly has that ability and upside at his peak. Whether it comes right away, it's tough. I feel like the gap between AAA and the big leagues right now is uh, bigger than it has been in recent years, and we've certainly seen guys who've come up and been really good prospects in AAA and have struggled right away. I mean, guys like Vlad Jr. and Soto and, some other guys like
Yeah.
Tatis make it look a lot easier than it is. But so, I mean, I think he's a good enough player right now where he could come in and, I mean, I don't know, he could be like the rookie of the month right away, but there's just so many growing pains and it's just such a jump sometimes, even for like an older, more polished and advanced hitter like Pasquantino, where there could still be some bumps in the road, at least initially. So it's hard to predict that, like what he would do, and maybe even just a couple months that he might be up.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, let's talk about those initial bumps in the road. Let's talk about the transition that we were kind of talking about with Pasquantino going from minor league to the majors, and let's look at the other hot ticket items that we kind of got in the Orioles farm system, and that's these new prep arms. And Frank Mazzucato and Ben Kudrna just made their debut a few weeks ago with Columbia. Got 3 or 4 game sample sizes on them now. Mazzucato 4 games started, 9 earned runs and 11 strikeouts, 10 walks. Kudrna is 3 games started, 10 and 2/3 innings pitched there, 12 strikeouts, and only 1 earned run give up so far. So what have you seen from them relative to when they were drafted, and what's kind of, jumped out to you on those 2 guys?
It's a little tricky, right? Like Kudrna, like you said, he's only made 3 starts. He's going 3-4 innings at a time. So I haven't talked to a scout who's seen him yet this year, so I don't have any new on him this year. But I mean, we had him as a top 50 prospect in the draft last year. It's good body, good delivery, good fastball up to I think it was like up to 97, potential plus breaking ball, athletic. These are a lot of the markers, a lot of the checkpoints that you look for in a high school pitcher. With Frank Mazzucato, I got to see him a lot last year leading up to the draft. He was basically, I mean, there were some Northeast area scouts who had him on their radar as like a sleeper candidate coming into the year, but he was very, very under the radar coming into that spring, and then his stuff jumped up. I was at his second start of the spring. I think there were some scouts that were like kind of pissed off that I was there, and then just because he was going to get blown up so much from there. But I mean, it would have happened regardless. I did not think he was going to go be a top 10 pick when I saw him that day, or when I at basically at any point up until the Royals picked him in the top 10. But yeah, I mean, another guy where it's a lot of checkpoints that you look for in a pitcher. I mean, really athletic, left-handed pitcher, was young first class, was 17 pretty much his whole senior year. Was up to, I think, 93, pitched more at like 87, 91, but a ton of projection in his body, really loose, free, and easy delivery. And then his curveball was, a hammer pitch, and he had feel for adding and subtracting from it and landing in the strike zone. So you could see a lot of good projection indicators in place for him, especially with that potential out or an out pitch in his breaking ball. So it sounds like this year some of that projection has already started to come on. He's gotten stronger. Reports we've gotten have him throwing harder already, which is not unexpected, but already a good sign to see it coming already. But I guess obviously what stands out right now is just the walks being so high.
Yes.
Which I always thought that Mazzucato had really good feel for pitching, especially for his age, but it almost seemed like he had better command of his curveball than his fastball at times. I mean, I think if you just look at his delivery, you would think, all right, well, this is a guy who's going to throw a lot of strikes. It's simple, easy delivery, looks very repeatable. But his fastball command would kind of come and go on him. So I think that's something that certainly still needs to progress. But again, like the athleticism should help him there. The delivery should help him there. I think if you look at like in a perfect world scenario, he could turn into somebody like Max Fried, right? And if you look back at what Max Fried was doing when he was in the low A, it wasn't walking this many guys. Obviously Mazzucato's only had a few starts, but his walks were higher when Fried was in the low A, and then he got hurt and delayed his timetable. He came back. He's still having some command issues, but once it all clicked for him, he turned into a number 2 starter, left-handed power arm with a really good breaking ball. So certainly a long ways away, but there's a dream scenario where an outcome like that could be in play for him.
I could get on board with that dream scenario. Sign me right the hell up right now.
That's actually a really good body comp for Mazzucato as well that I hadn't actually thought of yet. So I'm glad you brought that up. So those are the guys we have to ask you about, or we probably get fired from doing the show. The guys that we wanted to ask you about, and the reason I asked you to come on is, and before we get into anybody specific, I want to ask you more of a general question about evaluating fringe prospects. So our job in the media, and obviously as a team-centric website and podcast and account, we can focus on 75 to 100 players in an organization, and it still is a fraction of what you guys are covering with 30 prospects or 40 or 50 prospects from 30 organizations, right? So in the media, it's a little bit different, but from an organization standpoint, so we'll focus on the Royals here. But as the Royals, if you're talking about their front office, how hard is it to evaluate the guys that are on the fringe, because you spend a lot of capital and a lot of money in guys like Mazzucato and guys like Caderna and your Brady Singers and your first round picks and your early picks and your big signings. But it's the Vinny Pasquantinos who you get in the 11th round. They show up, they hit, and all of a sudden that fringe prospect turns into a legitimate top 100 prospect in baseball. So before we get into anybody specific, how hard is it for organizations to focus on all of these guys and to give the same amount of opportunity and attention and coaching and all that to the fringe prospects when all of their resources are devoted to some of the bigger name guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think you as an organization, you certainly have priority players who you want to give priority looks to and priority playing time to, but I don't think an organization is going to overlook players. I mean, if they drafted a guy or signed a guy, usually there's some reason they signed him, right? Like, sometimes, you have guys who are, organizational filler type guys where it's like, all right, well, we need a catcher at this level or something. But a lot of that, even now with the reduced number of minor league teams and the reduced number of rounds in the draft too, you're not just signing some random 33rd round pick. So even the later round draft guys, there's some there's some reason you're signing them. There's a reason you're signing Vinny Pasquantino, because all right, he didn't play at a top college program. He didn't play in the SEC. He's really limited defensively, but all right, like the numbers he's putting up are pretty good in college. We like what we see offensively. We maybe think there's some more power in there coming, and sometimes those guys, like you said, turn into prospects or top 100 prospects or all-star players sometimes too. So I mean, it's certainly, like, as an organization, you want to give priority coaching and priority reps and priority playing time to your best prospects, and sometimes those guys who are more on the fringes of prospectiness move themselves up. And I'm sure Vinny, somebody like Vinny Pasquantino or like Whit Merrifield probably is another good example when he was a prospect in the Royals organization who just kind of turns himself into a better prospect, or maybe it was just a better prospect than people realized is maybe a better way to put it, depending on your perspective. So by that point, then yeah, I think they start to get more attention from the organization and more priority, playing time and developmental opportunities too.
Well, do you think that those guys that kind of just pop up on the radar, like you're talking about, do they have to prove it a little bit longer? Is there do you think there's any kind of, I guess, longer leash that they're needing to kind of take into before they actually get the shot at the pros?
In terms of what they need to do before
Yeah.
signing, or in terms of
Or before they get that promotion to the big league?
I think,
not to name names or anything, but
I mean, I think it just depends on the situation. Like, certainly, like, all right, like if you have sometimes you're like, all right, like a high bonus player, a high draft pick seems to be getting a lot of opportunities, and yeah, you can say like, all right, well, the team is giving them a lot of opportunities because they signed for a lot of money, but like, really, probably what's happening more so than that is that there's a reason they got a lot of money because they have some sort of raw talent, raw ability, and those raw tools are probably still intact, and they're still getting opportunities because of that, raw talent, raw athleticism, whatever it is that, may have gotten them paid, even if the performance isn't there. So, and in a lot of cases, the guys who are the later round picks might be guys who have, tools that don't jump out to you immediately if you just go in and watch them at like a showcase or a workout, or just see them for a day or two, or you could see them for a lot of it's just their tools aren't any better, but some of those guys, it's like the more you see them, the more you appreciate them, and the more, and some of the times too, it's just like, well, we haven't seen him against great competition in college, or it's a college guy, dominating guys in low A, which is the, very mixed bag this year. There's no more Appy League, right? So you have like some guys who should be in the Appy League, if that had still existed, or the Pioneer League, if that still existed, and some guys who really should be in low A, and then there's this still like weirdish backlog from that 2020 season too, in some cases. So, some of those guys who might be a little bit lighter on tools and are just older, dominating low A competition. It's like, well, all right, let's wait until they get to double A. It's a little bit better barometer there. Pitching is better. The command at that level is better. The arms you see coming out of the bullpen are probably real prospects in a lot of cases in there, whereas in low A, high A, you're not seeing a lot of like true like relief prospects at that level. So sometimes it's just a matter of seeing a guy proving it at a higher level, and then the organization, or us too, at Baseball America, or whether it's us or scouts we're talking to from other organizations, start taking guys a little bit more seriously and saying, oh, all right, this guy who might be a little bit lighter on just raw tools, or maybe some more question marks on whether what he's doing to translate at higher levels. Well, he's doing it now, so he's only a couple levels away from the big leagues.
Makes sense.
So let's take this and talk about guys, some specific players in the Royals organization. The Royals have a catcher / first baseman in Double A named Logan Porter, and really a lot of these guys we're getting ready to talk about are in the scouting world what I think we would consider to be 35 plus guys, meaning on a 20 to 80 scale, if 40 is a usable, legitimate big league prospect on the low end, a 35 plus, for those of you listening, because I'm not telling Ben anything new, is the guys we're talking about. They're on the fringe. They clearly have something that they're doing that is worth mentioning, but they're not like a legitimate prospect. I wouldn't consider Logan Porter at the moment to be like a legitimate prospect, right? Fangraphs and even Baseball America both release their top 30s, top 40 prospects in the organization. You won't find Logan Porter on those types of lists. But, You have a 26-year-old catcher at Double-A who is a great receiver, doesn't throw really well, but he's a great receiver with a walk to strikeout ratio that's getting closer to 1 every day. He's cut down on his strikeouts. He's improved his walk rate. There's a good bit of raw power in there. Just hit his 6th home run the other day. And Steamer, for all that Steamer's rest of season projections are worth, has him projected by the numbers and the numbers only for a 95 weighted runs created plus in the big leagues for the rest of the season. That is almost a league average hitter in the big leagues. I don't love the way that works, but you can at least use the numbers and understand he's really hitting the ball well at Double-A. So, Ben, the question I have for you, 26-year-old catcher at Double-A, good receiver, good bit of power, destroying the league. At what point does a guy like that become a prospect? Because he's way too old for the level, but he's hitting. And at some point, like guys that are hitting, when do they stop? Is there something that we look for to say, hey, here's the reason he's going to stop? Because statistically, on paper, there aren't a lot of reasons to think, oh, he's just going to stop hitting when he's promoted to AAA at some point.
Yeah, it's tough. Like you said, he's 26 in Double-A, but I never like to write off guys just because they're old for the level. I think that's you miss on players that way because look, like he was drafted at 22 years old, so he's already you can't control that. He's set to the Royals in the Appy League the next year, right? So you can only go where your team sends you to play. Then you miss a year because of the pandemic, right? So just because of those circumstances, he's 25 in high A last year, so he's 26 in Double-A. Look, you can have good prospects in Double-A or good prospects. It's just Double-A, Triple-A who are 26 years old. Like we talked about Whit Merrifield is a great example, obviously, for the Royals of somebody you would not want to have written off just because he was older. 25, 20. What did he debut at? Like 27, I think.
I think that's right.
With Kansas City. So or in the big leagues, Jeff Neal. I remember watching him in Double-A as I think like 25 or maybe he was 26 too, and being like, this guy's got like a pretty good swing. Like this is like this might work. Justin Turner. There's all sorts of guys who are later bloomers, and usually it's a lot of times it's more often on the pitching side. It seems like just because guys can, guys just start throwing harder out of nowhere sometimes, or adding a nasty slider. It's a lot easier to just add a nastier pitch, I think, than it is to really break out as a hitter when you're already in your mid 20s. But with Porter, I think he is a good fastball hitter. Seems like really good results against fastballs, good swings there. I've seen some more swing and miss on off-speed stuff. Seen some sometimes where his swing comes unglued there. So like you said, he's not in our top 30 for the Royals. I can't say that I've heard, or I'm not sure if anybody on our staff has heard much scout chatter on him as a prospect, but like you said, maybe we're light on him. It could be, one of those later bloomers, but I just can't say I've heard the chatter on him from scouts as a prospect, at least to this point.
Something else, another guy that we've kind of been high on in Royals Farm Report here, outfielder Tucker Bradley there in Northwest Arkansas as well. He just turned 24 last month. This is just his second professional season. Last season between high A and A ball had 125 WRC plus, currently at a 123 there in Double-A. We talk about Michael Massey. He gets a lot of run in prospect sites, and ourselves included, that we're very high on Michael Massey, yet Tucker Bradley has had a better K percent, better walk rate, better ISO, better runs were created plus. So it just kind of wonder, it seems like he spreads the ball out to all fields really well. So, I mean, where do you see him kind of not only in this organization's outfield outlook, but also as his overall value as a professional in the major leagues, if that?
Yeah, I mean, you got he's a corner outfielder. I think he I mean, some of the him using the opposite field sometimes is him just kind of the way his swing works, where he'll like he'll step in the bucket and kind of pull off early. So not in love with the swing, but if you make a mistake, he can take advantage. He can do some damage with that. It's not like big time bat speed or power. So especially left field or right field, it's kind of a more challenging profile, I think, for it to work. But like you're asking about guys who are way beyond, or not way beyond, I should say, but like outside of our top 30 prospects. So I'm not gonna it's guys where it's like, all right, well, maybe they end up, shoot, man, I've doing this for 15 years, and baseball, just like life, is full of surprises. And the biggest takeaway from that is that you will continue to be surprised and continue to be, surprise good and surprise bad on a lot of things in baseball.
Yeah, makes sense.
So how hard is it for guys? Let's use Tucker Bradley, right? So if you are Tucker Bradley and you're kind of like we talked about, out hitting Michael Massey, who seems to be favored by the org more, you are having success at every level that you move through, and the org comes to him and says, "Hey, you've got to fix some things. Here's 2 things you got to fix if you want to make that next step." He's like, "Well, I'm out hitting the guy that you're telling is doing a great job. Like, why do I have to fix things? We're the same age. I'm out hitting him. Like, why am I the one that has to fix stuff?" How hard is it to convince a guy like Bradley, "Hey, we know you're hitting the crap out of the ball, and we're happy for you. But in order to make the adjustment at the big league level, this is something you have to do. Like, you have to get this fixed if you want to make that next step." They're having success. They've never been to the big leagues or AAA, so they can't realize what that's like yet. How hard is it to convince a guy, "Hey, you've got to change or you'll never have success at the next level," when they're pummeling pitching at AA?
Well, it's tough, and also sometimes the organization is not necessarily right, right? So sometimes you try to change a hitter, and it's like, well, like, it looks weird, but maybe it just works for him. Like, I'm sure a lot of hitting coaches saw Hunter Pence and were like, "Dude, you got to stop doing this. It's not gonna work." Or like, I remember, like, even like the Giants, when like Madison Bumgarner, his first season, they tried to like change his mechanics. You kind of see why. Like, it's like super long sweeping arm action. It's like maybe you want to shorten that up so you can throw some more strikes consistently as you get it. No, like, just and then he was like, "No, I'm gonna go back to my old mechanics and just do things my way." And sometimes the stubborn player is right too. So it's difficult. I mean, I think, yeah, a lot of times as a organization too, like, a lot of times they do want to, as long as it's working for a player, they're like, well, like, I don't want to be the guy that like breaks him either too, right? If it keeps working for him and then we change something and it goes wrong, and whether it's because they're they really believe that it could keep working for the player just the way it is, or it's career risk where they don't want to be the guy that is known as the guy that screwed up this hitter or that pitcher. Yeah, but I mean, it's I think especially at like AAA too, you get into a level of that's probably the level with the greatest amount of bitterness at it too, because you have like the young hotshot, like Bobby Witt Jr. is in AAA, right? Well, obviously not now, but at a certain point he's there, and you have these top prospects who are on the rise and getting a lot of attention, and all the fans are talking about, when are we going to call up Vinny Pasquantino already, right? And then you have guys, maybe had some big league time and have gotten sent down, or you have guys who've been like minor league veterans who are like, oh, like, when am I going to get my opportunity? Like you said, I'm out hitting this, young prospect. I've got better numbers than him. Why aren't I getting more attention? So that's definitely a I think it's one of the more challenging clubhouses to levels to manage a clubhouse at the minor league level.
You're not balancing like egos from money. You're balancing egos from from age or experience or everything, literally everything else. So definitely,
Guys who are like, I want to get back to the big leagues. I should be there. Guys are looking to get up for the first time. The younger prospects, all sorts of, things, a lot of different personalities you have to balance in that one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of balance, let's go to a little bit of the draft coming up here in July. We're kind of starting to get the ball rolling. We've got our draft guide and our draft coverage coming up as well. But I know you guys are kind of starting to ramp things up for Baseball America. We got the Royals at number 9, and they've got 3 picks in the top 50. I know the underslot game, is always a very fluid situation, is very dependent upon both the draft class, guys being where you think they are, guys signing for what you think they'll sign for. But just to, I guess, answer this impossible to answer question, are there any guys that you could see the Royals kind of double dipping or even triple dipping with those 3 picks there in the 50s?
As far as like what their strat, like would they spread their money around like they did?
Yeah. Is there any underslot opportunities that they would potentially look at?
Yeah, I mean it's it just kind of depends. I could certainly they did it last year, right? So there's certainly a team that's willing to do it. So I could certainly see them doing it again. As far as like which players, it's kind of hard to say at this point. Like I wouldn't have thought they would. If you asked me, I mean, literally, if you'd asked me on draft day, or like even once the first 6 picks were off the board, if they were going to do it for Frank Mazzucato, I would have been like, I don't think so. That doesn't sound
way.
Right. Like I love Frank Mazzucato. I just didn't see that coming. So I'm sure there certainly could be players who would be more toward the back of the first round on talent. Like if Mazzucato didn't go in the top 10, I think he probably would have gone in the back of the first rounds. So it's, looking at guys like that. And like, not saying they're going to do the same, go for another left-handed pitcher, but like, like a Brandon Barriera, left-handed pitcher, and American heritage in Florida is like a guy who's in the 20s. Or I think will be in the 20s on our next BA 500 update. So like I could see somebody in that range, and then cutting a deal with him under slot, going over slot with their the later picks. Or I could also just see him playing it straight too and just drafting whoever they have as the the best player available on their board, whether that's could like a college bat like Chase Young, high school guy like Cam Collier, but Cam Collier, I think of him as a high school guy because he was a 2023 player who reclassified to the 22 draft, went to Pola Junior College, dominated there, and now he's like playing in the Cape Cod League because he's just a total baseball rat and just can't get away from the game and wants to like squeeze in every amateur baseball experience that he can before it becomes a first round pick. So I love his swing and his power. I'm enamored with his offensive game, especially. So guys like that, I think if they wanted to just take the best player available on the board, those are the guys that that could be in that range. Or I don't know how far Termarr Johnson is going to fall down the board. Like if I had the first pick in the draft, I'd take him. But if teams are, more scared off by him being 5'8", like Jose Ramirez type of body, that concerns them, and he falls, I don't think it's out of the question that he could still be available there. And if the Royals take him, then I would be doing cartwheels if I was a Royals fan.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I was getting ready to say, if the Royals get Termarr Johnson, I was like, you've got free dinner in this city anytime you show up. So I will be there. We'll make it happen. I will I will also stop. I will quit doing this if they pass on him. So that is, he's like, I agree with you. I think I had him number 2 or 3 on our first top 10 we let out. It was Brooks Lee, Chase Young, and then Tamar Johnson, I think in that order. So I'll ask you this, Ben. Let's say it's Cam Collier, Jace Young, Gavin Cross, Jacob Berry on the board at number 9. Where are you going with that pick? If it's those 4?
Yeah, I mean, those are pretty much going to be like probably like our 7 through 10 on our updated BA 500. That we're working on right now. We may tweak a few things, but I don't think we're going to have him, and I don't think we're going to have Cam Collier at the top of that list. But for me, I probably would take Cam Collier. I mean, if you're going to go the college route, I mean, Chase Young is a really good hitter. Like, him and his brother are both, super talented hitters. It's I think Collier is a more conventional swing. He's younger. He just generates such easy power too. It's just a beautiful swing. It really reminds me too of seeing Rafael Devers when he was that age. Just a sweet swinging left-handed hitter, really smart hitter too. Knows the strike zone. Just a knack for putting the ball in play. Like, he has big raw power too, but he has a hitter's first mentality, which is what I really like to see at that age. So I think he has a chance to be a middle of the lineup hitter in his prime, and I think he's got a chance to stay at third base too. He's a bigger body guy, but certainly plenty of arm strength for third base. But I think his hands and footwork continue to improve it, just depending how big he gets. Like Vlad Jr. was at third base obviously at one point, and then he blew up and went to first base, and it doesn't matter because he's Vlad Jr. But like Devers is a good example of a bigger body guy when he was younger too, who had questions if he was going to move to first base, and he's been able to stay on top of his conditioning enough to be able to stick at third base. So I think that's an outcome I could see for Cam Collier. So yeah, if all those guys are on the board, I'd be taking Cam Collier.
I'm sold. Okay.
Yep. He's probably not. I mean, you were big on Collier anyways, Alex, so makes sense.
Yeah. So that makes me happy. Okay. I'm in. That's who I'll be rooting for at number 9. Ben, before we get you out of here, one last question we ask everybody their first time on the show. Joel's listening. I can see him down there, so he'll be happy that I included this. You can go back and watch any moment in baseball history live and in person. Where are you going?
Ooh, any moment in baseball history. That's a good question. I like my first instinct is like Jackie Robinson's debut in the big leagues. Like, I'd be curious just to see like what I don't know. I'd certainly want to see his debut, but even just to have season tickets too, just to kind of like see what the reaction was from fans at the time. Sure. Just to like see firsthand, not that you would obviously know everything he's going through, but just to at least see like the reaction live at the stadium of like what it was like for I was such a historic player. That's the first one that jumps to mind for me.
I think if I could go back and watch a Jackie Robinson moment, I think if I could take my cell phone with me and record on a better camera the play at the plate with Yogi Berra would be, you could come back and sell that video for millions of dollars. Just to have like a better quality of like, was he out or safe? It would be legendary. So that's actually that's the first time we've ever gotten that answer. So that's a good one. Ben, we really appreciate your time tonight. Thanks for joining us. Like you said, the guys that are off the top 30 they're harder to talk about. They're harder to figure, but they also deserve a little bit of the limelight. So thanks for coming on and talk about them with us. Good luck through the draft coverage season that's about to be upon us, and hopefully we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, no, I love it. You guys go super deep, so that's awesome. So I'm glad to talk about those guys. So thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll do it again soon.
All right. Thanks to Ben Badler of Baseball America for joining us. That was great conversation. Really good to get his thoughts on some of the bigger names in the system, but B, some of the guys we don't talk about as often. Logan Porter, Tucker Bradley, and when do these guys become prospects? And I ask myself that all the time watching that Double-A team, because they've got Robbie Glendening and Tucker Bradley and Jake Means and Logan Porter. And it's like, man, these guys can really hit, but it's like none of them, and rightfully so, have like major prospect value. Like, I love watching Logan Porter play baseball. Love watching Logan Porter play baseball. But there's not, like I said, he might be our 50th ranked prospect midseason. So really good conversation there. Thanks to Ben for coming on. Really quick, we're going to take a word from KCSC, our sponsor for the year. We'll be right back.
From the beginning, we knew right away that we wanted to do strength conditioning and a throwing program for the baseball and softball community. It wasn't something we were trying to back into or all of a sudden learn. We knew we were really good at coaching these skills from the get-go, and the fact that we're in the same business and the employees are all on the same page, we can write a program based off of what a kid needs, not just getting him stronger or faster from a general sense. It's what does this kid need? On the pitching end, we can say, hey, this kid needs such and such. He needs to do this or that better. A lot of times it turns out it's not something that needs to be fixed in the baseball cage or on the throwing mound. It actually needs to be fixed in the weight room.
All right. Sorry, I was reading a text from Joshua and I missed the thing coming in. So let's get into the minor league minute. Minor league minute brought to us by Drum Farm this year. Drum Farm Center for Children. Every Saturday morning, you can go out to Drum Farm on Lee Summit Road. I tweet the address every weekend. Get fresh cinnamon rolls, some fresh produce, like grow your own tomato plants. They have actual plants out there if you want to have your own garden. They have a petting zoo. They have a donkey, some goats. It's a great time, truly. Like, it's not very big, but you go out there, take your kid to the petting zoo, get some produce and some cinnamon rolls. Everything benefits the kids that are there, that are working it. Every kid working it lives there at Drum Farm. Great opportunity. Thanks to them for picking up the minor league minute. Our MVP of the week is Logan Porter. Logan Porter, couple home runs, couple doubles. We talked about him ad nauseum throughout the podcast so far, but he is our MVP of the week this week. This is we're recording on Sunday, June 5th. So that week, guys, really quick, I want to talk to you guys about really the state of the farm system really quick before we get into a full-blown minor league minute. So before we cover the actual week that was, let's recap the season a little bit. Columbia struggling, Quad Cities struggling, Northwest Arkansas hammering the baseball, but the pitching staff really has struggled quite a bit. And then in Omaha, it's just been a whole back and forth. Half the team has been in Kansas City at one point or another. Half the team has been at Double-A at one point or another, right? So they're really kind of going through some roster influx. But that team overall has been pretty good. Not great, not bad, but pretty good. Josh, I'll start with you. Or Joel, you just joined us. I'll start with you. Give me your overall thoughts of the season, because as I sit here and think about it, I'm not overwhelmed with good feelings, but I don't feel strongly that it's been a failure either. Like, it's just been a very average, kind of like a meh season so far.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way. I'm not necessarily shocked at the struggles we're seeing in Columbia. That team does not have a lot of college guys on it. It's a lot of the prep players from the last couple of drafts, a couple with international guys getting their first run at big league ball. So I'm not shocked that we're seeing some of the negative results we've seen, but there's still, some flashes of good stuff at every level. We've seen that. And I don't think that's why I feel strongly one way or the other about what we're seeing. Still a lot of standout performances at every level, good performances, and guys that are going to continue to move up, guys that are validated being in our top 30 or higher, that are performing at levels that we thought they would, even if the team holistically isn't. So I'm not concerned about it at this point. Obviously, you want to see them win games because it's something that the Royals value in having these guys win at the minor league level so they can eventually win at the big league level. But at the end of the day, as long as they're getting the development that we think is necessary to get them to Kansas City, then, it is what it is.
Josh, what about you?
Yeah, generally the same. I know we made the comments prior to the season that we were pumped up about, especially the Omaha roster and the Northwest Arkansas roster. I think Alex even predicted a couple trophies in those two teams. Definitely not living up to those expectations at the moment, but just off the top of my head, it doesn't seem like there are that many guys that we were concerned about, taking strides forward developmentally, not doing that. You could certainly look at guys like, the Ben Hernandez, the Will Kleins. There are dudes in the system that are not living up to what we wanted them to be, but those dudes in large in part had huge question marks anyway. So it was kind of like we maybe should have, instead of been pumping helium, been being like, well, we're going to keep a special eye on these particular guys because they showed something last year, and let's see how they kind of build off of that type of thing. So when you look at the Pasquitinos, the Melendezes, the Bobby Witts, the Nick Prados, the guys kind of like, we need those dudes to hit before the big league club to do something at some point. We need those dudes, and they did what they needed to do to get that promotion, to get up. Well, except for one major guy in there, we're not going to discuss that again, but it just seems like in large in part, those dudes are all either making progress, building off of what they started, or, they're already promoted into that next tier, next step in their development. But the other problem is the Asa Lacy thing. The Asa Lacy question is a huge thing for me, for us as a podcast, for the Royals as a system. He just can't, he's not healthy again, and that's an issue. He needed to take those steps forward in order to be, counted on in the future, and we're not seeing that just yet. So that's kind of, large in part, like Jewel, I agree with him completely that, as a whole, you want to see them succeed. It is important to the organization, but it just feels like in general, the guys that we wanted to see take step forwards or at least maintain are doing so.
I don't disagree with anything you said. And I think the general takeaway I have is that the COVID year in 2020 has still held up a lot of what we see in terms of development at the younger levels, at the A-ball levels. Because Ben mentioned it on the podcast just a few minutes ago, you don't have short season ball anymore. The Arizona League hasn't started yet. And I sit here and I kind of wonder, it's like the average age of the low A player is like 22 years old this year. And the Fireflies have a bunch of 18-year-olds out there. So speaking of the Fireflies, as we really get into the minute a little bit, swept by Salem. 6 in a row to the Salem Red Sox. In only 2 of those games did they score more than 2 runs. Not good. Danny Vasquez, not really hitting. He did hit his first 2 doubles of the year today. One of them was a ball. I almost tweeted the video, and I didn't want like Royals fans like, oh, that's not a real double. It's like, I know. It's funny because his first double, legitimate double down the right field line. The second one, it was hilarious. He hits a fly ball into center field. The center fielder dives and is like this, like I can't even make my hands on the screen as far away from the ball as he was. It was so funny. Like he laid out on a ball that 4 of his body lengths might have caught. Anyway, ball got
I can't get mad at that. I love the effort there.
I
mean, at that point, I can laugh and be like, I applaud it, man. That's
very, very hardo A-ball play.
Got to get naked for those.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, it was bad. And Danny Vasquez ended up at second base with another double. But so he did hit a couple doubles today. Eric Pena still not hitting. Carter Jensen has struggled in a big way of late. And it's not even that he's like, ooh, like that's a bad at bat. It's like you watch Carter, like, I don't know if I'm biased. Like I need somebody to sit down and watch 50 of his at bats and tell me if I'm just being biased because he's a local kid. And he's a friend of the show, by the way. But I watched the pitchers pitch to other hitters. And it's like, okay, low A pitcher working through a low A lineup. And then it's like they get to Carter Jensen. And it's like they look at Bryce Harper in the box. And they're like, okay, here's my best stuff. I'm not going to give you anything good to hit. And we're going to work all the way around you. Giving him like Barry Bonds treatment. Now, is that every at bat? No, certainly not. There are bad at bats that he has, like any other 18-year-old in full season baseball. But it is so weird. I watch it and it's like he played 3 games in a row and got 4 fastballs. What? Like, what are we doing here? And so anyway, that team is struggling in a big way. The pitchers this week, Mazzucato, 3 2/3 hitless. Caderna, 3 more scoreless innings. Shane Panzini struggled his command a little bit. They're just kind of trudging along. That team needs a boost. I don't know where that boost is coming from. I don't think it's coming from Arizona. I don't think it's coming from within at this point. Maybe at midseason, a bunch of the players in the league get promoted to high A, and they can be the older veterans in the league. I don't know. That team is struggling in a big way. Down in the Quad Cities got a win today to, I think, avoid being swept. Yeah, they won today to avoid being swept. So of your 2 A-ball teams, they went 1-11 this week. Not a good week. And if you're wondering why we are not picking players of the week, it's because there weren't a lot of great options. I was flipping through Fangraphs and minorleague.com, like trying to find a pitcher and player of the week, and it's like it's slim pickings this week. So Logan Porter hit, and almost everybody else struggled. So that's why we're only picking Logan Porter this week. Guys, I think the biggest thing for me and these A-ball teams, the biggest concern, if I was going to pick a concern, is a lack of prospect who has really stepped up and been heads and shoulders above his peers at the level. In low A, that guy doesn't exist. Not even Darryl Collins, who is in now his 2nd round at low A, a guy that I was running the hype train for on my back preseason. Not even Darryl Collins has really stepped up. I don't know if you can look at either roster and go, that's the guy. That's the guy who has stepped up and is having a big season for one of those 2 teams. Tyler Gentry early on was that, but he's cooled off a ton lately. So I don't know who it is. And you have 2 teams where there's no obvious choice. So Josh, really quick, in a more positive light, on that Quad Cities team, you were in on Tyler Gentry preseason. Have you seen anything from him this year that has made you think, okay, I feel vindicated in that prediction, and this is why I'm still high on Tyler Gentry?
Well, it was a very cool hot take, if you will, very lukewarm. If you heat up the ice cubes, a la Daniel Stern and Rookie of the Year, that's the kind of take it was. It was basically like making sure that Tyler Gentry makes it into the our top 15 at some point. I don't feel bad about that bold take at all. I still think he's very, viable in that situation, but he has certainly cooled off. Obviously, I'm not writing as highly on him as I was prior in the first month or so. But I mean, that was due to come down. Joel, you always talked about his BABIP being crazy town.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous.
So BABIP, it is what it is type of thing. But I'm still fine on Tyler Gentry at this point. The guy I'm kind of high on at this point is Dylan Schrum. I don't know how much of his prospect status he has as a 24-year-old in high A, but he's absolutely had a great season so far. I brought him up in my off the radar guys that I was kind of pumped to see in there. And he's kind of, for me, the dude that has been that 7 home runs, 22 walks to 42 strikeouts is not bad at all, carrying a 940 OPS. So he's almost on base 40% of the time. So Dylan Schrum might be that guy that you're referring to. But between him and Tyler Gentry, those are more or less the only 2 bright spots that for that Quad A team.
Northwest Arkansas down in AA went 2-4 this week. So now among the 3 teams, we are a combined 3-17. No, 3-18. Is that right? 3-16. What's 6 times 3? 18. So 3-15. There we go. Yeah. We'll get there eventually. We'll have to work our way through, but we
not a math podcast.
No,
not a math pod. No.
So 3-15 if you include Northwest Arkansas, and then as we move up to Omaha, they won 2 games this week. Did they win in the 3rd one? They did. They won 3 games this week, so they only played 5. So that's 6-20 for the week. Even that doesn't feel right. What did we just say? 3-15.
6-18. So 6-18.
They went 3-2. Yeah, 6-2. Whatever. I'm tired of doing math. 6-18. And again, it was just kind of a slow week. So that was the minor league minute, which was pretty uneventful this week. Also, I apologize for sounding like I have died recently. I have been sick all week. It's like we recorded on Monday and Josh, after we got done just ranting and raving about how bad the Royals are. It's like Dayton Moore had God spite me with illness, and I've been sick all week. So I apologize.
Yep.
A, for screwing up the math. B, for sounding like I'm dying. So, Joel.
I was also a bit sick after that podcast. I had a really bad headache, and felt my mouth was really dry when I woke
Irish
up that
flu?
morning. A little something like that. Yeah.
Hey,
Something like
I
that.
didn't want to ask you live. Maybe we can edit this out if you want. Did you really drink that whole bottle?
Oh no. I'd be just super dead, big time dead for
You
anybody
were like, I
not
opened this
watching
bottle
us.
in the third inning, and I was like, what?
That was
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I did mention that it was a Costco bottle, and Costco's reputation is having like whiskey barrels full of $20 Canadian whiskey. But no, I did not. I finished the bottle, but it was only like 2 drinks.
Joel, before we get to the actual final thoughts, do you have any final baseball thoughts from Ben's interview from the week that it was? Any final baseball thoughts before we get to the final thoughts?
I am fully in on the Royals taking Cam Collier at 9 if he's there. When he said Rafael Devers, I went, oh, okay.
Ooh, yep.
That name kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And you've kind of mentioned he's got like a Mike Moustakas kind of feel to him as a bat first corner guy. Certainly something that could be really fun. There are some fun options there that could be there at 9, depending on the way the board falls. And man, if Termarr Johnson's there, I'll sprint to Secaucus, New Jersey for Dayton Moore and make that pick if that's what it takes.
Well, this might be a little bit of a sneak peek, but are we still trying to are we going to meet up at the Kingdom Bar and Grill for the draft night?
I don't know if that's been confirmed, but we're going to try and do some sort of live stream for the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft, the MLB draft there in July. I believe it'll be like the Sunday before the All-Star break is
17th.
Yeah, the 17th.
Yes.
So if we're at the Kingdom Bar and Grill and the Royals get Termarr Johnson at number 9, I will have $100 or maybe a couple $100 for some free Dr. Peppers for anybody who meets us out there. But I will have Dr. Peppers for everybody if we can land Termarr Johnson at number 9. That would be best case scenario by him. I mean, like short of Brooks Lee falling to number 9, like that would be Termarr Johnson's best case scenario.
Are you still in on Chase DeLauder, or is the injury the broken foot?
No, I am. I just think I the whole time we were talking about it, like did I have Termarr Johnson actually at number 3? Now I can't even remember who I had. I'll go back and look. But the more I looked into it, like sneak peek this week when we release our top 11 or 15 or whatever the next ranking is, Termarr Johnson will be in my top 3. I went back and was A, talking to somebody smarter than me, but B, watching some of the video. I think Jose Ramirez, like just body type is pretty similar, but he reminds me of like, I don't know, not Rafael Devers, but like Willie Calhoun, what Willie Calhoun was supposed to be when he just got DFA'd by the Rangers. So I hate using that, but like maybe a left-handed Jose Altuve. Like I get it. He's a little bit shorter, but the swing has some bad intentions. Like he is looking to elevate the baseball and he gets to it with regularity. So you want to pass on the guy because he's short. That's more than fine. Bring that ass here. Like he can come play for the Royals whenever he wants. I would be down for that. So Josh, get into the actual final thoughts. Hit us with your final thoughts. This week we are doing non-baseball related final thoughts. So hit us.
This week I was on vacation. I went to the Devil's Bunghole with the family in St. Louis, and really good trip. Starting to do all these, more kid focused. We got, a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. So did the Magic House, did the zoo, did the Butterfly House, did some playgrounds, and it was a very new dynamic for vacations, having 2 kids in a hotel room and just trying to find stuff to keep them from breaking both everything in the room and your just general spirit. So it was a good trip. It's very, very fun to watch them learn and have good memories, and a lot of good stuff was on that trip. So I was thankful to be able to do that.
There you go. Joel, about you, final thoughts.
So I wanted to do this last week, but because we pulled the audible on the way the episode was going to be structured, I bowed out because I was going to probably end up talking about it on One Royal Way anyways. But I went out and played golf with my dad on Memorial Day on on Monday with a couple of his buddies, and we were having a good time, 2-man scramble. We ended up losing by 1 hole, but we played pretty well. But right around, we started on the back 9, get to the front, and we caught up to this group in front of us. And this is my general thought for golf. If you're bad, just be bad. Like, don't like there was a gentleman in the group in front of us that would stand there for about a minute and line up his shot, sit there and really think about it. And then he would go and then take about 2 or 3 practice swings and then back off and look at it again, and then take 2 or 3 more practice swings, and then sit there for another 30 seconds and really get into some sort of psychosis to hit the ball, and then shank it into the trees every single time, like clockwork. Treated every putt as if he was going to win $2.5 million at Augusta National. Like, I am not going to say that I'm any good at golf, but I at least want to get up there and hit, because if I think about it for that long, I'm going to do exactly what that guy was doing. And when you sit there and have to wait 6 or 7 minutes between your tee shot, your second shot, your third shot in the green, it's awful for everybody. Like, just play fast, get up there. If you want to take a practice swings, cool. You want to line it up and try and find the line that you want to hit to that you're not going to, then fine. But if you're bad, just be bad and go out there and drink beer and have a good time. But my God.
We have a 1 putt rule when we play golf. It's once you get the ball in the green, you get to putt it 1 time. And after you putt it once, if you don't make it, you have to add 2 strokes to your score, and then you're off. We don't stand around and putt all day. Get the ball on the green, putt it once, pick it up, and get off. I'm
big on the gimme rule. Like, I'm like you. If you want your long putt, and then you take just generally like 4 feet in, like, yeah, go ahead and pick that up and add a stroke. We'll call it good. But yeah, like, I'm not like 2 putts. I go 2 putt max. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and worry about it for that long. No. But even then, I'm not worrying about my putt that much. Like, I kind of just trying to read the line a little bit. Okay, left to right. Okay, cool. And then I get up and hit, because I'm not going to think about it for that long. I don't need to. I shoot in the 90s on a good day. I don't need on my own when I'm actually playing, like, not scramble, then I'm going to go out and I'm probably going to shoot 98. I don't need to worry about my putts that much.
Amen. My final thought of the night, Joel, I get to see Turnpike on Friday.
Let's go.
Council Bluffs, Iowa.
That's going to be incredible.
My first time ever seeing them. It's outside and it might rain, and I just could not care less. I'm so excited.
It's going to be incredible.
Steve Earle is opening for them, so I have to brush up on my ability to dance to Copperhead Road.
Ooh.
But yeah, so I get to see Steve Earle and Turnpike.
Nice.
When you go to, like, your dream band concert for the first time, you get to experience that for the first time. What's your beer, like, your buzz level? Are you just going for it, or are you gonna
see? This is a problem I have. This is why I've cut back on how often I drink, is because I don't have the ability to gauge it. It's just I start and I finish, and where the end happens is usually more predicated on my surroundings than me. So I'm going to go in there, bush lattes flowing, and probably just enjoy it. I wish I had the ability to, like, think about that, but I don't. I just
feeling the vibe.
I just go with the flow and
live the vibe. Yep.
Drink as much as my environment allows.
Makes sense. I've gotten into a few of those situations. The AFC Championship game this last year was one of those. I had a very strong bout of Irish flu the next day after that game. So totally understand, but I'm just kind of wondering, like, the older you get, it seems like the better it is to kind of figure out where that gauge is. Try your damnedest.
That's one quality that I've been pretty good at, sans like the Super Bowl and the Chiefs won. Other than that, that's like the one time that it really got bad. But no, when I went and saw Turnpike, I made sure that I was, at a good level, having a good time, still enjoying a few beverages with my friends, but also, like, I wanted to be able to, see the concert.
Yeah.
And not through
not a blur. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. I was at a Shane Smith and the Saints concert at Knuckleheads, and they closed it out with long, hot summer day.
Oh,
And I thought they were going to bring the roof down. That wasn't even Turnpike. Like, I cannot wait to be in Iowa on Friday. So,
dude.
hopefully,
When
after that, I'm on vacation. So, actually, I literally told you guys, I gave you guys a game plan for the podcast next week. I won't be on the podcast next week. I'll be in Colorado with no internet. So,
looks like it's you and I, Josh. We got to hold down the fort.
Let's do this.
I'm going to go get lost. So,
This sounds
all right,
like a
gents.
good trip to me.
Thanks for joining me tonight. Thanks to Ben Badler of Baseball America. Thanks to KCSC for sponsoring the show. Thanks to KCSN, Drum Farm, Tickets for Less. And also, I got nothing else. We'll see you guys next week. Or I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thanks again. We'll see you guys soon.